guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you guys how to make a jumpsuit. So guys, I want to use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to everybody that subscribed to my channel. Like guys, I don't know how you guys do, but in less than 1 month I'm already getting 500 and something subscribers. Like wow. So guys, I want to say a very big thank you to you guys. I so much love you guys.
So these are the materials and the tools I'll be needing. I went ahead and marked my bust point, my under bust point and my waistline, which is 16.5, but I went ahead and added half inches, making it 17 inches. So now I'm going to mark my neck. I'm using the neck of 4 inches, and then my shoulder is 14 divided by 2, that is 7, plus half inch for my seam allowance. So from that point I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So now I'll be going ahead to join my neck to my shoulder slope with my rule. So after that, I am going ahead to mark my neck depth. So the neck depth for this tutorial, I'll be using 6 inches. So I went ahead and marked 6 inches. So I'm going to connect from that point to my neck, as you can see me doing. I'm going to connect it. You can as well use your free hand, or you can use your curve rule, but I went ahead to use my free hand for this tutorial. So now that I'm done, I went ahead to mark my nipple to nipple measurement. So I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement, so 4 inches, and I'm going to mark the same thing on my under bust side, that is 4 inches, and I'll also do the same thing at my bust point, like so. So while I was done, I went ahead and connected the line, the 3 points together, like so. So I'm going to mark half inch above my bust point and then 1 inch under my bust point, like so. And then I'll come to my waistline and then I'll mark half inch at the half inch at the both side, making it 1 inch. I'll do the same on my under bust part. So while I was done, I went ahead and connected my half inch from my waistline to my under bust line, and then also on the other side, as you can see me doing. So while I was done, I went ahead and connected it to that 1 inch below my nipple point or bust point. So I went ahead to my shoulder side to mark out my chest line. So remember, to get your chest line will be your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So mine is 7.6 inches. So I went ahead and marked 7.6 inches. I measured my shoulder and I got 7.5, and I marked the same thing under my chest line, 7.5, so that it will enable me to draw a straight line easily. Now that I'm done ruling my armhole depth, I went ahead and divided my armhole depth into 2. So now I'll be taking my body measurement. My bust divided by 4, that is, my bust is 37 divided by 4, as you can see me doing. So I got 9.25. So I went ahead and marked my 9.25 for my bust at my bust point. So I extended it to my chest line as well. So I went ahead and extended my chest line. So the next thing we're going to do is to come to that point and then go in by half of an inch, like so, and then connect from that point to that point and then that point. As you can see me doing, I use freehand sketch at this tutorial because at this point I think I am not in the mood to use my curve rule. So now that is it. So I want my upper bodies to be like I am going to pad it, but I'm not going to pad it. So I went ahead and marked 1 inch from that point, 1 inch from that point, as you can see me doing. So I'm going to rule a straight line from that point to my waist point, like so. I want it to be a bit curvy at my bust side. So remember, it's from that point. So I went ahead and curved it from 1 to that 1 inch below my bust point. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to rule a straight. I'm going to connect from that my half inch at that armpit hole to my half inch above my nipple point, as you can see me doing. So the next thing I'm going to do is to mark half inch at the both side at that line, half inch. So I'm going to connect it down, as you can see me doing. So from that point I am going up by 1 inch so that I won't have a shortage of fabric at that point. So I am going to connect it down to my chest line. I went ahead and marked 1 inch there at that point. So I'm going to connect from that point to that point, as you can see me doing. Guys, if you look closely, you will see that I marked 1 inch at that point. Please, it is not there. It will be 1 inch, the line below it. That is where you mark your 1 inch at that indication I just made there. So now I marked my waist measurement. That is my waist divided by 4. I got 8 inches. So I'm going to replace that 1.5 that I cut. I'm going to cut out there to that point, like so. So that is it. So now I am going to mark the same thing on my under bust part. So now that I am done marking my body measurement, I went ahead and added 2 inch of my seam allowance. So now that I'm done, I'm going to connect the line that is for my allowance. So I went ahead and connected it all the way down to my waistline. was at this point that I realized my mistake. So guys, please just be careful while you are marking yours too, so that you not make the same mistake I made. Instead of marking it at the second line, you're going to mark that your 1 inch there at the third line there. Now we are at the back part. Remember to mark your 1.5 inches for your zipper allowance. And I went ahead and ruled out the same line I did in my front. That is my bust point, my underbust, and my waistline. So now move over to our neck. I am going to mark my neck depth, my neck of 4 inches. So now my neck is 4 inches. While I was done, I went over to mark my shoulder as well. I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, as you can see me doing. So I connected the line from there to my neckline with my row, as you can see me doing. So the next thing I went to do is to mark my armhole depth. That is 7.6 inches. So I went ahead and marked it, and then I extended the line. That is my chest line indication, just like we did in the front. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to find the midpoint of my armhole depth. My midpoint, I got my midpoint, and then I marked it like so. So now the next thing that we're going to do is to mark our dart. My dart is 4 inches. That is my nipple to nipple. I marked 4 inches from at my waistline, my under bust line, and my bust line. So I'm going to connect it like so, just like we did in the front. So from my bust point, I went up by 1 inches. So I'm going to connect it from my 1 inch to my armhole midpoint, like so, as you can see me doing. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is to mark my half inch for my dart. So I marked half inch on the half inch on the both side. That is making it 1 inch. So now I'm going ahead to connect my point up to that 1 inch above the bust point, as you can see me doing. So now the next thing I'm about to do is to get my body measurement. That's the same measurement I got at my front part. I'm going to mark the same at my back part, as you can see. The same thing I am going to do to my underbust. Instead of 8 inches, I'm going to replace the 1 inch of my dart there. So, and I'm going to add my 2 inch for my seam allowance. I'll do the same thing at the waistline as well. So I placed the same thing at the waistline. So now I went ahead to connect my those 3 points, as you can see. So now the next thing I'm going to do is get my armhole curve. So I'm going to connect my 3 points, from that point to my midpoint and to my bust point, my chest point, as you can see. The front, remember the front side is where the one that you're going to go in by an inch, half of an inch or an inch, depending on your preference. But the back part, you won't do the same thing at the back. So coming over to our zip part, to avoid that bulgy stuff at the back part, so we're going to go in by 1 inch. So now I'm going to mark 1 inch at that point, that is leaving half inch remaining. So I'm going to connect from that point up above, although it doesn't have a specific for me, I don't really know, but for me, I don't think it has a part for you to stop or not to stop. So I extended mine up above, as you can see me doing. So now move over to the back depth, to the back neck depth. The neck depth I use for this tutorial is 2.5 inches. So now I'm going ahead to connect from that point to my neck line, like so. So I went ahead and notched my zipper part so that it will indicate, it will give me an indication of where my zip is going to start. I did the same thing at the down part as well. At this point, we're done with the upper bodice. So for the down part, we're going to subtract our half length, what we got from the upper bodice. So I subtracted 17, and then I marked my 17 that there as a guideline. So from that point, I marked my hip line, that is 8.5, and then my cross is my hip divided by 4 plus 3 inches. I got mine 13 inches, so I marked 13 inches because we are making a jumpsuit. So that is the reason why I added 3 inches to my cross line. So I marked my knee line and then my full length and my hemming allowance. So now I went ahead to mark my hip. My hip divided by 4, I got 9.5. So I marked 9.5 there at my hip line. So, and then I added 1 inch there. So I extended the same thing on my waistline. That is everything will be 10.5. So I marked 10.5 as well on my waistline, as you can see me doing. So I went ahead to use my rule to connect from my waistline to my hip line, like so. So now the next thing we're going to do is to mark our thigh or laps measurement on that our cross line. So our thigh or laps measurement, mine is 24. I divided it by 2. Remember, you're going to divide the laps by 2. So I got 12 inches. I marked 12 inches. And from that 12 inches at that point, I marked out 1 inch. So now from that 1 inch I marked there, I'm going to connect it all the way down, like so. As you can see me, just look at what I'm doing so that you see what I am doing. So I marked down, I curved it down to that 1 inch. We'll move over to our knee line to place our knee measurement. So my knee is 17 divided by 2. I'm going to place it there, but before then I am going to come in by 1 inch at that point. So now I am going to take my measurement from there. So I'll place my tape from there to get my knee. Remember, our knee will be divided by 2. So my knee I marked 8.5. So now I want my trouser to my knee side to be a little bit loose. So I went ahead and added 1.5 for the ease allowance, for the ease. So I'm going to connect from that point to my crush line, like so, as you can see me doing. So now I went over to my waist. My waist is I divided my waist by 4, and then I got 8 inches. So I placed 8 inches at that point. I'm going ahead to mark my 8 inches. So now I am going to, I'm also going to add 1 inch for ease allowance, because I want it to be loosened a little bit. So I went ahead and added half inch, 1 inch there. So the next thing I'm going to do is to connect from that point all the way down to my waist, to my hip line, like so. And then from that 1 inch on my waist, my knee line, I'm going to connect it up above, like so. So I did the same thing I did at my knee line, at my ankle line as well, because I want it to be the exact fitting it gave me at my knee line. So I went ahead and connected the line all the way to my knee line. So the next thing we're going to do is to come up to our waistline. At that part, I am going to come down by ½ inch. I came down by a ½ inch at that point. So I'm going to connect it from that point straight to the end. As you can see me doing, I'm going to connect it to the end, like so. So now we're going to move over to the cutting of the back part. So I folded fabric into 2, and I placed my front fabric on top of the folded fabric. So from that cross side, I came out by 1.5 inches for the back part. And then from that point, I came out also by 1.5 inches, like so. So I am going to connect from that point to that point, and then I went over to my waist part and I marked 1.5 inches, because I am going to fix my zip at that point. So I am going to connect it all the way down. So remember, we took out ½ inch from that part, so we're going to replace it by another ½ inch, that is making it 1 inch, half and half. So I'm going to mark it from the back part, from there 1 inch, because I'm making a jumpsuit. So I'm going to connect it from there all the way to my waist. So I'm going to blend it to that point, as you can see me doing. So the next thing we're going to do is, at that point, we're going to add 1 inch at that point. So we're going to add 1 inch all the way down. So I went ahead and connected all my 1 inch together. So at that point, I'm going to connect it also to my cross line. So guys, you have to be careful while doing so at this point. So I blended it all the way to my 1 inch. So now at this point we are almost done with the back part. So now the next thing you're going to do is to go to the side of the trouser. At that point I'm going to mark 1 inch at that point. So I marked 1 inch at that point. I'm going to extend it like so, as you can see me doing. So the next thing we're going to do is to trace the bodies of the front parts at that part. So I'm going over to trace the bodies of the front part on the back side. Please, if you have watched to this extent, please subscribe, like and share to your friends. I think this video will be helpful to them. Thank you so much for subscribing, and also like so that a lot of people will see the video as well. Oops, before I forget, today is my birthday. Happy birthday to me. See you in my next video. Bye.